But many of the president's critics were hoping for something stronger. Case in point, 1986, Libyan terrorists bombed a West Berlin nightclub, hoping to kill off-duty American servicemen. The explosion took the lives of 3 people, including 2 U.S. soldiers, and wounded hundreds of others. Within days, President Reagan had launched a military response that was not without controversy and said this to the nation.
We Americans are slow to anger. We always seek peaceful avenues before resorting to the use of force. And we did. We tried quiet diplomacy, public condemnation, economic sanctions, and demonstrations of military force. None succeeded. Despite our repeated warnings, Khadafi continued his reckless policy of intimidation, his relentless pursuit of terror. He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong. I warned that there should be no place on earth where terrorists can rest and train and practice their deadly skills. I meant it. I said that we would act with others if possible, and alone if necessary, to ensure that terrorists have no sanctuary anywhere. Tonight, we have.
Joining me now, Charles Krauthammer, syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor. Charles, good to see you. Those Reagan remarks just make you feel something. They make you feel, among other things, that he got it. He got it. Your thoughts?
Obama's rhetoric was completely wrong, repeating everything he's been saying for 7.5 years, which has yielded us the worst outbreak of terrorism that we have seen the last 12 months. Have been all over the globe, mass murders on a large scale and quickening in pace. So his turning to diplomacy is almost pathetic because he doesn't seem to be able to articulate any other answer.
At this point, Americans want to know what it's going to take to win. I mean, the resolve to defeat this group is growing by the day.
Well, he's tried diplomacy. People don't even remember now when they called for a big summit, world leaders to go after this. Kerry called a huge summit right after the earlier ISIS attacks, the earlier ISIS, the cold-blooded executions on video and on the internet. What it was, large number of countries. Obama boasted of a 61-member coalition, which is pathetic. Where are these people? It's essentially the U.S. Air Force, a couple of other allies, and, of course, the Iraqi army and militias on the ground, and the Kurds, of course. But the idea that our diplomacy is solving this has simply been shown to be false. What needs to be done, everybody understands, this is ISIS has alienated every country in the region, alienated people around the world, and it can be taken out. It is not 10 feet tall. The Washington Post had a lead story earlier in the week talking about the fact that ISIS is quietly preparing its own people for the fall of the caliphate. What's happening on the ground right now, Mosul is the next target, and ultimately it'll be Raqqa. They are now metastasizing to live, to strike, to execute their plans elsewhere. But they are being squeezed in their homeland, and that, to me, is the key. That's the way to win this. You have to make them homeless. You have to remove the sanctuary. You have to remove their income. Ultimately, they then have to go underground. Yes, they will continue to strike, but they will be nowhere near the threat they are now. It hinges on what happens in the ground, in the region, and you don't execute that by diplomacy.
Charles, what do you make of what's happening in Turkey tonight?
Well, the reports are conflicting. The military clearly has been seen itself for 100 years as a defender of secularism, and they have a president who has been relentlessly pushing Turkey into a dictatorship. He's been suspending judges, imprisoning journalists, taking over all the institutions, and Islamicizing the country, one that is famously secular in the Muslim world. So, and they have done this before. They had a coup almost every decade. Whenever the elected government would move Islamist, they would strike. Now, if they succeed, I think ultimately it will be to our benefit, because the Turkish military, the secular arm Turkey is a very strong ally of the West, very anti-Islamist, would join us with a lot more vigor in the fight against ISIS and terrorism. If Erdogan wins, I suspect he'll be strengthened. He will accelerate the Islamicization, and he has been playing a double game with ISIS, allowing infiltration into ISIS territory, allowing the fighters to go in and out, and also allowing the refugees to pour into Europe. So his game is, he's not an enemy. He's been warming up slightly, allowing us to do airstrikes out of Turkey. But this could change. He could be embittered, he could be radicalized, and that would be a terrible outcome.
Charles Krauthammer, thank you so much. Good to see you.
My pleasure.